The maintenance tunnel smelled like burnt metal and recycled air. Kang Minho wiped the grease from his hands and checked the power coupling one more time. Everything looked good. The station's environmental systems would run smoothly for another month at least. He heard footsteps behind him. Heavy ones. The kind that belonged to someone who thought they owned the place. Human worker. What takes you so long? The voice was sharp and cold. Minho turned to see Threx standing in the tunnel entrance. The Vryn supervisor was tall, nearly 7 feet, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. 2 of those arms were crossed over his chest. The other 2 held a data pad. "Just finishing the inspection, sir," Minho said quietly. He kept his eyes down. That was what the Vryn expected from humans: respect, submission, weakness. Finishing? "You have been here for 2 hours. A Vryn engineer would complete this work in 30 minutes. Threx stepped closer. His black eyes studied Minho like he was looking at a broken tool. "This is why humans will never advance. You are slow, inefficient, barely capable of the simplest tasks." Minho said nothing. He just picked up his toolkit and stood up slowly. He was average height for a human, maybe 5'10", with dark hair and quiet features. Nothing special to look at, nothing threatening. "Do you understand me, human?" Threx demanded. "Yes, sir. I understand." "Good, now go. The waste recycling system on Deck 12 needs attention. Perhaps you can manage that without taking all day." Threx turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the metal tunnel. Minho watched him leave. His face showed nothing, no anger, no frustration, just the blank expression of a man who had learned long ago how to hide what he really felt. He walked through the lower decks of orbital station Helios 9. The station was massive, home to 15,000 beings from a dozen different species. Most of them were Vryn or their allies. Only about 200 humans lived here, and they all did the jobs nobody else wanted. Cleaning, maintenance, cargo handling. The work that kept the station running but earned no respect. Minho passed other humans in the corridors. They all had the same tired look in their eyes. The look of people who knew their place and accepted it because they had no choice. He found Park Junho in the cargo bay, moving containers with a lifter machine. Junho was younger than Minho, maybe 28, with a round face and strong shoulders. He saw Minho and grinned. "Hey, Minho, you look like you just got yelled at by Threx again." "Good guess," Minho said. He leaned against a cargo container. "He called me slow and inefficient." "That's his favorite speech," Junho laughed. "Last week he told me that humans have the intelligence of cargo containers. I said at least containers are useful. He didn't think that was funny." Despite everything, Minho smiled a little. Unyo had a way of making things lighter. "You should be more careful. He could report you." "For what? Making a joke?" "Come on, Minho. Sometimes you have to laugh at this stuff or you'll go crazy." Junho set down another container. "We're having dinner tonight in the common room. You should come. Lee Suji will be there. So will some of the others, maybe," Minho said. "I have to fix the waste system on Deck 12 first." "The glamorous life of a station engineer," Junho said with mock respect. "See you tonight if you can make it." Minho spent the next 4 hours working on Deck 12. The waste recycling system had a blocked filter. Simple fix. He had it working again in an hour. But he took his time checking everything else in the area. The life support connections. The emergency systems. The power distribution nodes. He did this everywhere he worked. Learn the systems. Understand how they connected. Know every tunnel, every access point, every backup and override. It was just habit. The kind of habit that came from years of training that most people on this station knew nothing about. When Minho finally finished, he went to the human common room. It was a small space on Deck 20, nothing fancy. Just some tables and chairs, a food dispenser that worked half the time, and walls covered with pictures of Earth. Home. A place most of these humans would probably never see again. Lee Suji was already there, sitting with 3 other humans. She waved when she saw Minho. Suji was a medical assistant, one of the few humans working in the station hospital. She was smart and careful with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Minho, come sit, we saved you some food." She pushed a plate toward him. "Well, we saved you the least terrible option from the dispenser." He sat down and looked at the food. Some kind of protein paste with vegetables. It tasted like cardboard, but it was nutrition. "Thanks. Heard Threx was being his usual charming self today," said one of the other humans, a cargo worker named Kim Taejin. "He's always like that," Minho said.
He ate slowly, listening to the others talk.
They complained about their supervisors, about the long hours, about how the Vrin treated them like children or pets. It was the same conversation every night, but then Suji leaned closer and lowered her voice. "Can I talk to you later?" "Privately?" Minho looked at her. Her expression had changed. She looked worried. "Sure." After dinner, the others left. Junyo hung around for a minute, but Suji gave him a look and he nodded and left too. Smart kid. He knew when to give people space. "What's wrong?" Minho asked when they were alone. Suji pulled out a small data chip from her pocket. "Someone gave this to me in the hospital today. A woman named Choi Hana. She works in data analysis. She said it was important. She said I needed to give it to someone I trusted, someone who could do something about it." "About what?" "I don't know. She wouldn't tell me. She just said it was dangerous and that people needed to know." Suji handed him the chip. Her hand was shaking a little. "Minho, you're the most sensible person I know here. You keep your head down. You don't cause trouble. But there's something about you. Something steady. I trust you to know what to do with this." Minho took the chip and turned it over in his hand. It was standard issue, the kind used for file transfers. Nothing special about it, but the weight of it felt heavy anyway. "I'll look at it," he said. "Be careful," Suji said. Hana looked scared. "Really scared?" After Suji left, Minho went back to his quarters. It was a small room, barely big enough for a bed and a desk. He locked the door and inserted the chip into his personal terminal. The files that appeared made his blood run cold. Weapons, supply routes, target coordinates, and a single document marked Outer Rim Cleansing Protocol. He opened it and read. Then read again, hoping he had misunderstood. But he hadn't. The Vrin were planning to destroy the human colonies in the Outer Rim. 35 million people. They called it a resource reallocation and a preemptive security measure. The attack was scheduled for 3 months from now. Minho sat back in his chair. His hands were steady. His breathing was calm. But inside, something old and dangerous was waking up. He had spent 5 years trying to forget who he used to be. 5 years doing simple work and living a quiet life. 5 years pretending that the soldier was dead and buried. But some things you can't forget. Some skills you never lose, and some lines once crossed demand a response. Threx had made his first mistake today. He looked at Kang Minho and saw nothing but a slow, inefficient human worker. He had no idea what he was really looking at. Minho didn't sleep that night. He read through every file on the data chip 3 times. Each time the truth got worse. The Vrin weren't just planning to attack the Outer Rim colonies. They were going to make it look like an accident. A reactor failure. A cascade of technical problems across multiple colonies. Nobody would suspect genocide. They would just see a tragic disaster caused by human incompetence. By dawn, Minho had made his decision. But he couldn't do this alone. He needed help. He needed to know who he could trust. He started with Choi Hana, the woman who had passed the files to Suji. Finding her wasn't hard. The station directory listed her working station in data analysis on Deck 8. The trick was meeting her without raising suspicion. Minho waited until his lunch break, then walked to Deck 8. He carried his toolkit like always. Just another human maintenance worker going about his duties. Nobody paid attention to him. That was good. Being invisible was an advantage. He found Hana at her workstation, surrounded by holographic displays of data streams. She was thin and tired-looking, with dark circles under her eyes. When she saw Minho approach, her whole body went stiff. "Relay junction malfunction," Minho said loudly enough for others to hear. "I need to check the connections under your workstation." Hana understood immediately. She rolled her chair back. "Of course. It has been running slowly." Minho knelt down and opened his toolkit. He pulled out a scanner and pretended to check the wiring. "Lee Suji gave me your files," he whispered. "Then you know," Hana whispered back. Her voice shook. "You know what they're planning, I know. How did you get this information?" "I process data streams for the station. Military communications go through our servers. The Vrin think humans can't understand their encryption. They're wrong. I taught myself 3 years ago." She pretended to type while talking. "I've been watching, waiting, hoping I was wrong about what I was seeing. But 2 weeks ago I decoded the final attack order. It's real. It's happening. Why did you give this to Suji? Why not go to station security?" Hana laughed bitterly. "Station security is run by the Vrin. They would arrest me or worse. I needed to give it to someone who could do something. Suji is smart. I hoped she would know someone. Did I choose right? Minho was quiet for a moment. He moved some wires around, keeping up the appearance of work. I need to know something. Are you sure these files are real? Could this be a test, a trap? I verified everything twice. The authentication codes are legitimate. The communication signatures match Vrin military protocols. This is real. Hana's voice dropped even lower. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I'll need your help. Can you keep monitoring their communications? Yes, but be careful. The security chief, Vekros, is paranoid. He's been running random checks on all human workers. If he finds out what I've been doing, he won't, Minho said. He stood up and closed his toolkit. Your system should work fine now. If you notice any other problems, submit a maintenance request. I will. Thank you. Hana looked at him with desperate hope. You're really going to try to stop this? I'm going to stop this, Minho said. Not try. Just a statement of fact. He left Decade and went back to work, but his mind was already working through possibilities. He needed more people. He needed eyes and ears in different parts of the station. He needed to understand the Vrin military operations better. That evening, he asked Junho and Suji to meet him in one of the maintenance tunnels. It was a rarely used section, no cameras, no foot traffic, safe to talk. This is getting mysterious, Junho said when they arrived. Secret meetings in tunnels? What's going on, Minho? Something bad, Minho said. He pulled out a small portable display and showed them the files from Hana's chip. The Vrin are planning to kill everyone in the Outer Rim colonies. 35 million people. They're going to do it in 3 months. Suji went pale. No, that can't be real. It's real. I verified it with Hana. She's been monitoring their military communications. Junho stared at the files, his face getting hard. My sister lives in the Outer Rim, Colony 7. She has 2 kids. His hands closed into fists. What do we do? We stop them, Minho said simply. How? Suji asked. We're just workers. We have no weapons, no authority, no power. The Vrin have everything. They have everything except one thing, Minho said. They don't know who I really am, he told them then. About his past. About the Korean Special Forces. About the Earth Defense Initiative and the covert operations he had run for 8 years. About the missions deep in hostile territory where he had learned to move like a ghost and strike like lightning. I specialized in asymmetric warfare, Minho explained, fighting enemies who were bigger and stronger and better equipped. You don't win those fights by meeting them head-on. You win by being smarter, by using their strengths against them, by making them think you're no threat until it's too late. Junho was staring at him with his mouth open. You were Special Forces? You? For 8 years. Then I had a mission go wrong. People died. Innocent people. I left the service after that. Came out here to forget. Minho looked at them both. But I can't forget this. I can't let another atrocity happen. Not when I have the skills to stop it. What do you need from us? Suji asked quietly. Information, access, support. I need to know everything about how this station operates. I need to understand the Vrin security protocols. I need eyes in places I can't be. He paused. And I need to know if you're willing to help. This will be dangerous. If they catch us, they won't just fire us. They'll probably kill us, Junho didn't hesitate. My sister and her kids are worth the risk. I'm in. Suji took longer to think about it. Then she nodded. I took an oath when I became a medical assistant. First, do no harm. Letting 35 million people die would be harm. I'm in too. Good. Then let's start planning. Over the next 2 weeks, Minho built his network carefully. He approached each person individually, explaining only what they needed to know. Yoon Daiho was a shuttle pilot, young and eager. He had access to the hangar bays and knew every ship that came and went from the station. Minho recruited him to watch the military transports. Kim Nari worked as a cleaner. She had access to every deck, every room. Nobody paid attention to cleaners. And Nari had a perfect memory. She could remember every detail of every place she visited. She became Minho's mapper, building a mental picture of guard rotations and security checkpoints. There were others. A few more cargo workers. A food service worker who prepared meals for Vrin officers and could listen to conversations. An environmental systems tech who understood the station's life support network. None of them were soldiers. They were just ordinary people who were tired of being treated like they didn't matter. People who wanted to protect their families and friends in the colonies. Minho trained them in small ways. How to observe without being noticed, how to pass information safely, how to recognize surveillance. He didn't teach them to fight. That wasn't the plan. This wouldn't be won with fighting. At night, alone in his quarters, Minho studied the station's systems. He had access to the maintenance network, which meant he could see the technical blueprints of everything. Power distribution, life support, communications, security systems. He memorized it all, every pipe, every wire, every access point. The station became a three-dimensional map in his mind. He also studied the Vrin, their biology, their culture, their military doctrine. Suji helped with the biology, sharing what she had learned working in the hospital. The Vrin were tough and strong, but they had weaknesses. Their hearing was sensitive. Sudden changes in air pressure affected their balance. They needed more oxygen than humans. Small details. But small details could become advantages. 1 month after receiving Hana's files, Minho made his first move. It was small, almost invisible. A slight miscalibration in the environmental controls for the military wing. Nothing dangerous, just uncomfortable. The temperature dropped 3 degrees. The humidity increased. Not enough to trigger alarms, but enough to make the Vrin officers irritable and distracted. 2 days later, there was a problem with the food dispensers in the security barracks. They worked fine, but the food came out cold. Again, not dangerous, just annoying. Then a lighting malfunction in the command center. The lights would flicker randomly for a few seconds, then return to normal. Techs would come to fix it, find nothing wrong, and leave. Then it would happen again, small things. Insignificant things. The kind of technical glitches that happened on any large station. But they added up. The Vrin started to feel like something was off. Their routine was being disrupted in tiny ways. They couldn't point to anything specific, but their environment felt wrong. Vekros, the security chief, noticed. He started running more checks, more inspections. He increased patrols, but he was looking for big threats, saboteurs, spies, rebels. He wasn't looking for a quiet maintenance worker who understood that the best way to defeat an enemy was to make them defeat themselves. Threx complained about the technical problems during a staff meeting. These humans cannot maintain basic systems. Perhaps we should replace them with automated systems. Automation is expensive, another Vrin officer argued. The humans are cheap labor. The problems are minor. Minor for now, Threx said. But inefficiency spreads like disease. 6 weeks had passed since Minho started his invisible war. The small technical problems continued, spreading throughout the station like a slow infection. Nothing ever broke completely. Nothing ever became an emergency. But the Vrin officers were becoming frustrated and tired. Minho sat in his quarters, looking at the latest intelligence from Hana. She had decoded new communications. The attack on the Outer Rim had been moved up. Not 3 months away anymore. 6 weeks. The Vrin were getting impatient. We need to move faster, Hana said. She had started coming to the maintenance tunnels for meetings with the group. At this rate, we won't stop them in time. We're not trying to stop them with technical problems, Minho explained. He spread out a diagram of the station on his portable display. We're preparing the battlefield. Everything I've done so far is about 3 things. First, making them tired and distracted. Second, learning their responses to problems. Third, creating a pattern. What kind of pattern? Cunho asked. A pattern of small, annoying technical failures that don't seem connected. When we make our real move, they'll think it's just another glitch. By the time they realize it's not, it will be too late. And what is our real move? Suji asked quietly. Minho pointed to a section of the station diagram. The command center. That's where they coordinate everything. That's where the communications array is. If I can get in there and access their systems, I can broadcast the truth about their genocide plan to every allied world in this sector. That's impossible, Deho said. The command center has guards. Locked doors. Biometric scanners. You need to be Vrin to get in. I need to be authorized, Minho corrected. Not Vrin, there's a difference, he explained his plan. It was complex and required perfect timing. Every person in their small group had a role to play. This is insane, Nari said when he finished. But she was smiling. I love it. When do we start? 3 days, Minho said. That gives us time to prepare. The next 3 days were busy. Each person practiced their part. Minho made final adjustments to certain systems. He planted programs in the maintenance network that would activate on his command. He studied the guard schedules that Nari had memorized. On the morning of the operation, Minho went to work like normal. He carried his toolkit. He smiled at other humans in the corridors. He submitted a maintenance report about a power fluctuation in Sector 7. Everything looked ordinary. At exactly 1400 hours, Deho reported a coolant leak in Hangar Bay 3. It wasn't real, but the sensors said it was real because Minho had reprogrammed them the night before. The leak would require immediate attention. Standard procedure meant evacuating the bay and sending emergency repair teams. Security forces from that section of the station rushed to the hangar. That opened a gap in the patrol rotation. 15 minutes later, the food dispensers in the security barracks all malfunctioned at once. Not broken, just dispensing the wrong items. Coffee machines giving out soup. Meal dispensers producing cleaning solution. Chaos. More security personnel responded to deal with the confusion and angry officers. At the same time, Junho created a distraction in the cargo bay. He accidentally dropped a container marked as hazardous materials. The container was actually empty, but nobody knew that. It triggered contamination protocols. Another section of security had to respond. The carefully choreographed chaos was pulling security forces all over the station. The Vrin were scrambling to deal with multiple problems at once. Minho walked calmly toward the command center. He wore his normal maintenance uniform. He carried his toolkit. He looked like just another human worker responding to another technical problem. He had a forged work order on his datapad. It said there was a power regulation issue near the command center that needed immediate attention. The work order was perfect because Hana had created it using stolen authorization codes. 2 guards stood outside the command center entrance. They were Vrin soldiers armed and alert. When Minho approached, they looked at him with barely hidden contempt. "Human worker," one guard said. "This is a restricted area." Minho held up his datapad, keeping his eyes down and his posture submissive. "I have a work order, sir." "Power regulation check. It's urgent." The guard scanned the work order with his own device. The authorization codes checked out. "Make it quick. Do not touch anything except the power systems." "Yes, sir." "Thank you, sir." They let him pass. Just like that. Because he looked harmless. Because he acted submissive. Because they had made the same mistake everyone made. They looked at Kang Minho and saw nothing dangerous. Inside the command center, Vrin officers worked at multiple stations. The room was large and filled with holographic displays showing station operations, ship movements, and communications networks. In the center of it all was the main communications array. Minho found the power junction he was supposed to check. It was in a maintenance access panel near the back of the room. He knelt down and opened his toolkit, moving slowly and carefully. Just another human doing his simple job. But while his hands worked on the power junction, his eyes were memorizing everything. Guard positions, camera angles, access terminals. He had about 10 minutes before the staged emergencies around the station would be resolved. Then security would return to normal patterns. He waited until most of the officers were focused on a report about the hangar bay coolant leak. Then he moved. It took him 30 seconds to get from the power junction to the nearest access terminal. He pulled a small device from his toolkit. It was something Hana had built, a bypass unit that could interface with Vrin systems. He plugged it into the terminal. The device worked. Data began flowing into a hidden partition. Communications logs, command codes, system access credentials. Everything he needed. Human! What are you doing? Minho turned. One of the Vrin officers was staring at him. The officer's hand was moving toward an alarm button. "Sorry, sir," Minho said quickly. "I needed to check the terminal connection. The power fluctuation might have affected the data links. I was just step away from that terminal now." Minho stepped back, hands raised. The officer approached, suspicious now. He looked at the terminal screen, checking for unauthorized access. But Hana's bypass device was good. "It left no traces. Get back to your work," the officer said finally, "and stay away from terminals. You are here to fix power systems, nothing else." "Yes, sir." "Sorry, sir." Minho returned to the power junction. His heart was beating fast, but his hand stayed steady. The bypass device was still connected to the terminal. It would keep downloading data as long as he stayed in the room. He spent 5 more minutes pretending to work on the power system. Then he closed the access panel and stood up. "Power regulation is fixed, sir," he told the nearest officer. Should be stable now. Good. Leave. Minho walked out of the command center. He nodded respectfully to the guards at the door. He walked down the corridor at a normal pace. Not too fast, not too slow. Only when he reached the maintenance tunnel did he let himself breathe properly. He pulled out the bypass device from his pocket. The indicator light showed a successful download. He had done it. He was inside their systems now. That evening, the group met in their usual spot. Minho connected the bypass device to his terminal and opened the downloaded data. Hana worked with him decoding and organizing the files. "This is incredible," Hana said. "You got everything. Communications protocols, security schedules, command authorization codes. With this I can access almost anything." "Can you access the main communications array?" Minho asked. "Not yet. That requires two-factor authentication. But give me a few days. I can break it." "We might not have a few days," Suji said. She was looking at another file on the screen. "Look at this. It's a transport schedule. 3 Vryn warships are arriving at the station in 2 weeks. They're carrying the weapons for the Outer Rim attack." Minho studied the schedule. "If those ships arrive, the attack becomes inevitable. We need to act before then." "How?" Yunyo asked. "Even with the data you stole, we can't fight 3 warships." "We don't fight them," Minho said. "We expose them. We make sure everyone in the sector knows what the Vryn are planning. Once the truth is public, they can't hide behind lies about reactor failures and accidents. But to broadcast that kind of message, you need to get back into the command center," Deho pointed out. "They'll be more suspicious now. They might have increased security." "Let me worry about that," Minho said. But he knew Deho was right. The command center would be harder to infiltrate now. He needed a new approach, a better opportunity. 2 days later, that opportunity appeared in the worst possible way. Hana didn't come to their evening meeting. She always came. She was careful and punctual. When she didn't show up, Minho felt something cold settle in his stomach. He waited 30 minutes, then went looking for her. He found Suji first. "Have you seen Hana?" he asked. "No, I checked the data analysis section. She's not there." Suji looked worried. "Minho, I heard something in the hospital today. Security arrested a human worker. They didn't say who or why." Minho's jaw tightened. He went to find Nari. She cleaned the security offices. "She would know. It's Hana," Nari confirmed quietly. She looked scared. "I overheard Vekros talking. They caught her accessing encrypted files. They're holding her in the detention area. They're going to question her tomorrow." The group gathered in the maintenance tunnel at midnight. All of them came. Junho, Suji, Deho, Nari, and 6 others who had been helping quietly. They looked at Minho and saw something different in him now. The quiet maintenance worker was gone. In his place stood someone harder, someone dangerous. "Hana is in detention," Minho said without introduction. "They're going to question her tomorrow. Probably with interrogation drugs. She'll tell them everything about us, about what we've been doing, about what we know. Then we're finished," someone said quietly. "No," Minho said. "We're just changing plans. We're going to do 3 things tonight. First, we're going to get Hana out. Second, we're going to take control of the command center. Third, we're going to broadcast the truth about the genocide to every world in this sector." "That's impossible," Deho said. "Even if we get into the command center, there are dozens of Vryn officers there. Armed guards. We have no weapons. We're not soldiers." "I am," Minho said simply. "And you don't need to be soldiers. You just need to do exactly what I tell you when I tell you." He spread out a map of the station on his display. "The Vryn security system has a weakness. It's designed to handle external threats, pirates, enemy ships, boarding parties. It's not designed to handle an internal threat. Someone who knows every tunnel, every system, every weakness." He pointed to different locations on the map as he explained. "At 0100 hours, Deho will trigger a fire suppression malfunction in the engineering section. Not a real fire, just the alarm. That will pull security responders from the detention area. At 0115, Junho and Taijin will start moving cargo containers in Bay 4. Make a lot of noise. Make it look like you're stealing supplies. When security comes, run. Lead them on a chase through the cargo decks. Keep them busy for at least 20 minutes. At 0130, Nari will trigger the emergency lighting in the medical wing. All the lights will go to red alert mode. Suji, you'll report a contamination breach in one of the labs. That will lock down that whole section and occupy the medical security team. While all of this is happening, I'll be getting Hana out of detention. Then we go to the command center. But the command center will still have guards, Suji said. How do we get past them? Minho smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. We don't get past them. We go through them. But not the way you think. He explained the rest of his plan. It was bold. It was dangerous. It relied on timing and psychology and understanding exactly how the Vrin would respond to chaos. This is crazy, Junho said when Minho finished. Yes, Minho agreed. But it will work. The Vrin think they're superior to us. They think they're stronger and smarter. That arrogance is their weakness. We're going to use it against them. And if something goes wrong? Someone asked. Then we fail and 35 million people die, Minho said bluntly. So we don't fail. At exactly 0100 hours, the fire alarm screamed to life in the engineering section. The Vrin security team responded immediately, rushing toward what they thought was a dangerous fire. The detention area, which normally had 4 guards, now had only 2. Minho waited in the shadows near the detention entrance. He wore dark maintenance coveralls. His face was calm. He had done this before, in another life. Infiltration, extraction, precision operations where one mistake meant death. Some skills you never forget. The 2 remaining guards were alert, but not expecting trouble. Why would they? The detention area held only minor offenders, mostly humans who had broken work regulations. Minho moved like a shadow. He approached from the blind spot between 2 security cameras. His timing was perfect. When the guards turned their attention to a status update about the fire alarm, he was already there. He used a pressure point strike on the first guard. The Vrin dropped without making a sound. The second guard turned, reaching for his weapon, but Minho was faster. Another strike. This one to the nerve cluster at the base of the skull. The second guard fell. Minho caught him before he hit the floor. No noise. No alarm. He dragged both guards into a storage closet and sealed the door. Then he used his stolen access codes to open the detention area entrance. Inside there were 6 cells. 5 were empty. The 6th held Hana. She looked up when he entered. Her eyes went wide. Minho? What are you? We're leaving. Can you walk? Yes, they haven't hurt me yet. They were waiting for morning. She stood up quickly. How did you get in here? Does it matter? He opened her cell with another stolen code. We have about 15 minutes before they realize what's happening. Let's not waste them. They moved quickly through the corridors. Minho avoided the main routes using maintenance tunnels and service passages. He knew every camera location, every patrol route. He had memorized them all. They heard shouting behind them. Someone had found the unconscious guards. Run, Minho said. They ran. The station's alarm system began blaring. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Lockdown protocols activated. But Minho had planned for this. He had programmed certain doors to ignore the lockdown. They stayed open, creating a path through the chaos. They reached the meeting point where Suji was waiting. She had a maintenance uniform for Hana. Quickly, Suji said, helping Hana change. Security is going crazy. They're looking for escaped prisoners and supply thieves. They think it's 2 separate incidents. Good, Minho said. That means the plan is working.
Where's Daeho?
Already at his position, Suji confirmed. Minho checked his chronometer. 0145. Right on schedule. Let's go. They made their way toward the command center. The station was in controlled chaos. Security forces were running everywhere, responding to multiple incidents. No one paid attention to a few maintenance workers in the corridors. When they reached the level below the command center, Daeho was waiting with Nari and Junho. Security is spread thin, Junho reported. He was breathing hard from the chase he had led through the cargo bays. But there are still guards at the command center entrance. 6 of them now. They've increased security. 6 is manageable, Minho said. He looked at each of them. This is the dangerous part. Once we start, there's no turning back. Everyone understand? They all nodded. Then let's introduce the Vrin to asymmetric warfare. Minho walked straight toward the command center entrance. He didn't sneak. He didn't hide. He just walked up with his toolkit like he belonged there. The 6 guards saw him coming. They raised their weapons. Stop! This area is on lockdown. No access. I have an emergency work order, Minho said calmly. He pulled out his data pad. Critical power failure in the command center. If I don't fix it in the next 10 minutes, you'll lose environmental controls. Everyone in there will suffocate. It was a complete lie. But it was a believable lie. The station had been having power problems for weeks, and the work order looked legitimate because Hana had taught him how to forge them perfectly. The lead guard scanned the work order. He hesitated. I need to verify this with... The lights went out, all of them. Every light on the entire deck went dark. Daeho had cut the main power like Minho had instructed. In the sudden darkness, Minho moved. He had counted the steps to each guard. He knew exactly where they stood. And unlike the Vryn with their sensitive eyes, he could function in the dark. The first guard went down with a strike to the temple. The second got a knee to the solar plexus that folded him in half. The third tried to fire his weapon, but Minho was already inside his reach, redirecting the weapon toward the ceiling. The shot went wild. Emergency lights flickered on, red and dim. The other 3 guards were turning, trying to find their target, but Minho was already among them. He moved with brutal efficiency. No wasted motion. No hesitation. This was what he had been trained for. Close quarters combat. Multiple opponents. Overwhelming force through superior skill and positioning. 30 seconds later, all 6 guards were on the ground, unconscious or groaning in pain. Junho and the others stared at Minho with new understanding. This wasn't the quiet maintenance worker they knew. This was someone else. Someone dangerous. Drag them into the side corridor, Minho ordered. Quickly, they moved the guards. Minho took a weapon from one of them, a Vryn plasma pistol. He checked the charge. Full, I'm going in, he said. Suji, you're with me. The rest of you, guard this entrance. If any security forces come, trigger the emergency bulkhead. That will seal this corridor and buy us time. How much time do you need? Daeho asked. 10 minutes. Maybe 15. To do what? There are still Vryn officers inside. They'll kill you. No, Minho said quietly. They won't. He opened the command center door. The room was in chaos. The power failure had disrupted their systems. Vryn officers were shouting at each other, trying to restore functionality. Minho walked in with the plasma pistol raised. Suji followed, looking terrified but determined. Everyone step away from the terminals, Minho said clearly. His voice cut through the confusion. The Vryn officers turned. For a moment they just stared. A human, in their command center, holding a weapon. Then one of them laughed. A human with a gun? You don't even know how to use that, don't I? Minho fired once. The shot hit a wall panel exactly where he aimed, leaving a smoking hole. I spent 8 years in Earth's Special Forces. I've used weapons you've never heard of. Now step away from the terminals. The officers didn't move. They were still processing the impossible situation. The broadcast went out on every channel, audio and visual. Impossible to ignore. Impossible to stop. Suji had loaded Hana's files into the communications array. The evidence was undeniable. Attack plans, target coordinates, supply routes, communications between Vryn military commanders discussing the cleansing of human colonies. Their own words. Their own orders. All of it exposed for the entire sector to see. And Minho stood in front of the camera with Threx as his prisoner. My name is Kang Minho, he said clearly. I'm a human engineer on orbital station Helios 9. For the past 6 weeks, I've been investigating reports that the Vryn Collective was planning genocide against human colonies in the Outer Rim. I now have proof. He pulled up the files on the holographic display behind him. These are official Vryn military communications. They detail a plan to destroy 35 million human lives and make it look like an accident. They call it a resource reallocation. They call it preemptive security. I call it what it is. Murder. Threx tried to speak, but Minho cut him off. The Vryn have dismissed humans as primitive, as inefficient, as barely capable of simple tasks. They looked at us and saw nothing worth respecting. That was their mistake. He let the files scroll across the display, page after page of evidence, irrefutable, damning. I'm sending this to every government in the Allied sector, every news network, every independent station. The truth is now public. The Vryn cannot hide behind lies anymore. Alarms blared outside the command center. Security forces were arriving in large numbers. Minho could hear them trying to override the door locks. They're coming, Suji said nervously. It's okay, Minho told her. The broadcast is already spreading. They can't stop it now. He turned back to the camera. To everyone watching this, human and alien alike, remember something important. Humanity may be new to the galactic stage. We may seem weak. We may seem insignificant. But we are not helpless. We are not victims. And we will not be pushed aside or destroyed without consequence. The command center door began to spark. Security was cutting through with plasma torches. When you underestimate us, you give us an advantage. When you dismiss us, you make us invisible. And when you threaten our families and our worlds, you give us a target. Minho's voice was calm but hard. Those are mistakes you can't afford to make twice. The door burst open. Vryn security forces poured in, weapons ready. Drop the weapon, the lead officer shouted. It was Vekros, the security chief. He looked at the scene with shock and fury. Human, you are under arrest for what? Minho interrupted. Exposing genocide? Preventing mass murder? The entire sector just watched your plans. Every allied government knows what you intended to do. Vekros looked at the communications terminal, at the active broadcast, at the files displayed for everyone to see. His face went pale under his blue-gray skin. Turn it off, he ordered his soldiers. Shut down the array. Too late, Suji said quietly. It's already gone out. Already been received and recorded by thousands of stations. You can shut down the array now, but the evidence is already spreading. Vekros turned to Threx. Is this true? Was there really a plan to attack the human colonies? Threx said nothing. His silence was answer enough. You fool, Vekros said quietly. You've destroyed us. Minho set down his weapon carefully. He raised his hands. I'm surrendering. But understand something. I'm not the only one who knows the truth. There are others. If anything happens to me or any other human on this station, more evidence will be released. Evidence about other Vryn operations, other plans. It was a bluff. They had released everything. But Vekros didn't know that. Take him to detention, Vekros ordered, and secure these other humans. I need to contact the collective immediately. The security forces moved forward. They took Minho roughly, putting restraints on his wrists. They grabbed Suji too and the others waiting outside the command center. But they weren't rough. They weren't brutal. Because Vekros understood something important. These humans were about to become the most famous people in the sector. What happened to them now would be watched by everyone. Minho and the others were put in detention cells. But these cells had windows. And those windows looked out at monitors showing news feeds from across the sector. The broadcast was everywhere. Every news network was showing it. The evidence of planned genocide. The Vryn communications. Minho's statement. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. 3 alien governments issued statements condemning the Vryn within the first hour. 5 more followed before morning. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Human colonies armed their defenses and called for protection. And more importantly, public opinion turned like a tide. The Vryn had always presented themselves as the civilized leaders of the sector. The ones who brought order and progress. Now they were exposed as genocidal monsters. Within 24 hours, the Vryn Collective issued a statement. They claimed the attack plans were unauthorized actions by rogue military officers. They promised investigations and reforms. They announced the immediate cancellation of all operations in human space. It was a lie. Everyone knew it was a lie. But it was a lie that saved face and prevented open war. The 3 warships carrying weapons for the attack were recalled before they reached the station. The officers who had planned the genocide were arrested. Some of them would face trials. Most would probably just be quietly reassigned. But the important thing was that 35 million people in the Outer Rim would live. Minho sat in his cell and watched the news feeds. He felt tired, the kind of tired that comes after years of tension finally release. He had done what he set out to do. The mission was complete. On the 3rd day, Vekros came to his cell personally. You're being released, the security chief said. All of you. There will be no charges. Why? Minho asked. Because the entire sector is watching. Because human governments are demanding your freedom. Because you've become a symbol. Vekros studied him through the cell window. I finally accessed your full Earth records. Your real records, not the basic profile we had before. Kang Minho, Korean Special Forces, Earth Defense Initiative, 147 successful operations, 0 civilian casualties, honorable discharge after a mission failure that wasn't your fault. You did your homework, Minho said. I should have done it before. That was my mistake too. Vekros opened the cell door. You were right about us. We underestimated humans. We saw your short history in space and thought you were primitives. We forgot that every species was primitive once. We forgot that danger doesn't come from size or strength. It comes from intelligence and determination. Minho stepped out of the cell. Will you remember that lesson? I will. Whether others in the collective will. Vecros shrugged. Time will tell. But you've changed things. The sector views humanity differently now. You've proven that humans can't be dismissed. That wasn't my goal. I just wanted to stop genocide. I know. That's what makes you dangerous. You're not ambitious. You're not seeking power. You just want to protect your people. There's nothing more unpredictable than someone fighting for something they believe in. Minho was reunited with the others in the detention area. Junyo grabbed him in a tight hug. Suji was crying with relief. Hana looked exhausted but alive. All of them had survived. They walked through the station together, and something had changed. The Vrin they passed in the corridors looked at them differently now. Not with contempt, not with dismissal, with caution. With a kind of respect earned through fear. Some of the humans on the station had already left, taking transport ships back to Earth or the colonies. They had job offers, interview requests, fame they never wanted. Minho was offered a command position in Earth's defense forces, a return to military service with honors and recognition. He declined. I did what I had to do, he told the Earth military liaison. But I'm still just an engineer. That's all I want to be. 2 weeks later, things began to settle into a new normal. The station needed maintenance workers, and Minho still needed a job. So he went back to work. He was in a maintenance tunnel fixing a coolant pump when Threx found him. The Vrin stood in the tunnel entrance watching Minho work. Neither spoke for a long moment. Finally, Threx said, I called you inefficient. I said you were barely capable of simple tasks. I remember, Minho said without looking up from his work. I was wrong. You were never inefficient. You were patient. You were observing, learning, preparing. Everything you did had a purpose. Yes. How long were you planning to act? If we hadn't arrested Hana, I would have found another way. Another opening. I had time. Minho closed the access panel on the pump and stood up. The attack wasn't scheduled for 6 more weeks. I would have stopped it one way or another. Threx studied him carefully. And if we hadn't underestimated you? If we had known what you were? Then you would have killed me the moment I learned about your plans. But you didn't know. That was your first mistake. Minho picked up his toolkit. And arresting Hana to draw me out? Giving me a clear target to focus on? That was your final one. I see that now. Threx paused. There will be others in the collective who still think humans are inferior. Who still think you're no threat. Then they'll make the same mistakes you did, Minho said, and they'll learn the same lesson. Eventually. He walked past Threx heading to his next maintenance job.